Okay, so today I want to share something with you that I found reading the Bible that is a perspective that is something that could give us some insight into the end times. And that is in Acts 1:9. And let me read that to you. In Acts 1:9, it says, "And when he had spoken these things," this is after he rose from the dead and was seen and ministered to them, to the disciples and others, while they beheld him, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus, which was taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as you have seen him go into heaven. Well, we know that what they're talking about is when Jesus, finally went into heaven after he rose from the dead and then was seen after his resurrection. Anyway, well, I know that's what the scripture means. I know what it means, but I know my Father, and he has layered his word like a beautiful diamond. If you look at that diamond and you see it's a diamond, but when you look at that diamond, the different cuts on that diamond give a different perspective to the vision, the view of that diamond. And it's Father's layered his word with like insights, just the magnitude of the brilliancy and the childlike vision of Father is so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. So from this perspective, come with me and let me share with you what I saw. So when the angel said to them, You men of Galilee, this same Jesus that you saw go up into heaven in a cloud is the same way he's coming back to you. So there's something that happened in it was literally a week when Jesus entered into Jerusalem for that final last week of his life in the first coming. There was 1 week from the time he entered on that donkey and came into Jerusalem. In the same way, at his second coming, there will be 1 week of Jacob's trouble, known as the Tribulation. Well, when Jesus came on that donkey for that last week, they call it the Passion Week of the Lord. When he came, he stayed at Martha, Mary, and Lazarus' house in Bethany. And when you look up that word Bethany, it means house of affliction. When you look up the word tribulation, it literally means affliction. So, from this perspective of this beautiful diamond, from this perspective of the same way Jesus left you is the same way he's coming back to you. The first coming of the Lord into Jerusalem for that final week, when he's taken up at the end of it into a cloud, is the same way Jacob's week of trouble, that tribulation lasts 7 years. The 7 years of the tribulation, in the same way Jesus is coming down in a cloud to take his saints, his bride, away, to literally, as a thief in the night, snatch them away. Yes, I believe in the rapture. And this is not about that right now, but I am going to do what I see, and I see something very clearly in there of the rapture and the second coming. I see them where all the scriptures make sense. That we don't have to diminish one or not really talk about one in order for some narrative to work. For me, I don't really care what they're called. I believe with all my heart there's a snatching away, a rapture, a second coming, what if you will, and the return of the Lord, where Jesus comes back on a white horse with blood on his vest to take vengeance against those who have killed all his people. Great Babylon. And I think it's very clear a child can understand it in the Bible, but that's not today. Please don't get mad at me if you're a no rapture person and there's only one coming, because I will just say this to you. If there is no rapture and we only believe in the second coming, one return, one final return of the Lord, then those that are here during Jacob's week of trouble, found in Daniel 9:27, speaking of that 1 week. It's other places, but very specifically 1 week, Daniel 9:27, of Jacob's trouble, the tribulation period. 1 week meaning 7 years, 1 day for every year. If you're believing that there is only one second coming, then anybody during that week will not be going to the marriage feast of the Lamb. You won't be going, because the second coming of Christ is right after the marriage feast of the Lamb. So I believe with all my heart there is a snatching away, and then there is the wedding feast, and then he comes. So anyway, just right there, because talking in the end times, it's really hard to, for people not to stop where you are talking about to deal with that issue. They hear something, they're like, nope. I understand that, but this is not about that. This is about that last week, the tribulation period, mirroring it with Daniel's week of trouble, Jesus' week of his passion. He comes in, he stays. So it was a time where he stayed, a time of tribulation. And when he comes in on a donkey the first time. And the people, all the people welcome him. They throw down their garments, their cloaks. They put the palm tree branches, they extend for him, and they say, Hosanna, Hosanna. And they worship him. They welcoming him to come into Jerusalem, this city of God, known as the power or the glory of God. When he comes in, he immediately is going to cleanse his house. He is going to cleanse it and get rid, and I think that shadows the great falling away. Because he goes in, the first thing he does is cleanse it. He gets all the people that are in there, that are out for the money, that are not taking God seriously, that are don't make a sacrifice that is something that you love here. Take a few pennies and buy a little pigeon and go offer it to God, right? Don't come into the house of God or know Father and worship him in spirit and in truth and lay your life down and separate yourself unto him and make him your everything. No, just go to church on Sunday and just give him a little portion of you. That'll be good. No, I think rather when this week of tribulation, this 7-year tribulation, this week of the Lord's Passion, the first thing he's going to do is he is going to separate, much like the 10 virgins. 5 didn't have oil and 5 did. 5 went into the wedding feast of the Lamb and 5 were kept out. In the same, there is a sifting. Many are going to be led astray. Many are going to fall away because their heart, their everything is not in it. And they're going to be deceived, as we have talked about. And I will continue to share about anyway. Okay, so the next thing he does in his week is he starts weeping over Jerusalem. So that is, I wrote it down. He's cleansed the temple, he curses the fig tree, then he weeps over Jerusalem because he knows the destruction that is about to happen. Right? I have told you guys that I have seen in heavenly places, in spirit, Jesus weeping over what's coming. And I've had, some of you say, Jesus doesn't weep. Jesus is just happy. I'm so sorry. That's just not true. That's just, we want to believe that. Yes, he said it is finished, but we have to come into it. And do you not think that Jesus is weeping for the people that are led astray or that are going to fall away, are going to take the mark of the beast through this great deception of this Luciferianism, schism and ism that's on the earth right now, even pretending to be Christian, that comes in the name of the Lord? Do you think he's not weeping over that? I'm telling you he is. I'm telling you I've seen him. I stood beside his side in the spirit with him weeping and not happy. Not happy. Anyway, so he weeps over Jerusalem. He prophesies. He starts telling them what's going to happen. He starts speaking to them and speaking real stuff to them. Heavy stuff that, honestly, please hear me when I say this, but of all the ones that welcomed him into Jerusalem on the first day and laid down their cloaks and extended the palm branches in their hands to him, crying, Hosanna, Hosanna, by the time on the 5th day, when he is being tried, they are a part now of this insurrection, having been deceived by the religious leaders of their time. And now they're shouting, having in agreement with them, crucify him, crucify him. That's how fast it happened. In Jesus' time, from the time he came into Jerusalem on a donkey, they were crying, Hosanna, Hosanna. 5 days later, they're shouting, crucify him, crucify him. By the time the upper room came and he was crucified and rose again, and they're in the upper room, there's only 120 of them, waiting for the power of God to come upon them. The remnant. The remnant. And literally, it's a type and a shadow of Jacob's week of trouble. These last 7 years mirrored into the last week of Jesus's passion. When he enters Jerusalem, look, another thing happened that is a shadowing. When Jesus was tried, he was tried 6 times. 3 times before the Sanhedrin, 3 times before the Sanhedrin, and 3 times before Pontius Pilate. He was tried 6 times in the tribulation period. There are 6 trumpets, and the 7th trumpet, there is like silence. There are 6 vials, and in the 7th vial, in Revelation chapter 16, in the 7th vial, there is an earthquake that happens that has never happened before the beginning of time until the end. And there is hail coming down from the stars, and after that from the skies, and after that you see rejoicing in heaven. You see multitudes and multitudes of people in heaven and the great wedding feast. 6 times Jesus was tried. 6 trumpets. 6 vials on the earth. Right? I'm telling you, it's like the Word of God is so layered and so deep. And God is constantly giving us layers and layers of understanding. Right? Wow. That's not the only thing that happened during that week of trouble, a week of affliction, Jesus' affliction, time of affliction, and Jesus' the week of passion. The other thing that happened is that Jesus, during that time, in the city of God, he healed the blind. He raised Lazarus from the dead. And in Jacob's week of trouble, we have what is known as the 2 witnesses. I believe that during the time of Jacob's trouble, there is a remnant, there is a people, sons of God, that are going to rise up in the great power of God. That as darkness gets darker, for behold, darkness covered the earth, and a great light shined upon them. That the sons of God, that the grace and the goodness will manifest in the glory of God, because it's God's promise, and because God is like that. When the darkness comes, the light in us gets brighter and brighter. And the power of God is going to come upon us. And we, in the name of the Lord, in the power of the resurrection of Christ, are going to raise the dead. Yes, blind eyes are going to open. And during this time of tribulation is a time where the people are either going to grow extremely hateful towards the Lord, or they are going to cling to Him. They are going to run to Him. They are going to, even my brother who fights me on everything, is now, because of all the things that are happening in the world, he is now calling me up, and he is concerned about, what is this? What is that? No, it's not that, Teri. It's got to be that. And now, in these time of tribulation, he's starting to, which never before was he interested in the Lord. But now he's starting to get, well, the church is either going to run to the Lord, press into Him, because what are you going to have? What are we going to have? Right? What are we only going to have? The Lord. The Lord's miracle working power, like in the wilderness, right? We are going to walk in the power of God. I want to give you some scripture here. What I found let me see. Hold on, because I wrote it down. I copied and pasted it in here. Where is it? Please. No, it must not print it. I'm so sorry. But, okay, remember, was it, I think it was in Ezekiel, and it says that can these dry bones live? And he literally, it was like, do you believe that I can take these dry, dead bones and speak to them and they will live? That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. And the sons of God that know Him and that are pressing in, God is going to use us like never before. That the very words of our mouth will have power to cast down. God is showing us in Jesus' time, powerful, raising the dead, Lazarus from the dead. And let me tell you something. I know, in that raising Lazarus from the dead, God shows us how He does it. He gives us an example right there. What will move Him during that time? If you recall, He stayed at Martha and Mary and Lazarus' house. Now Lazarus, Jesus is with the disciples and hears that Lazarus is dead. So He tells the disciples, Lazarus is sleeping. And then they finally realize Lazarus is dead. And we look and we see Martha and Mary are in the house with a multitude of people. And Martha hears that the Lord is coming. They call for Him. And she hears they're coming. So she gets up, she leaves, and she goes to a certain place, runs out to meet Jesus. And when she gets there, she speaks to Him and she gives Him a very powerful word of faith. And she says to Him, Master, my brother Lazarus is dead, but I know that whatever you say will happen. I know even now you can raise him from the dead. What happens? Nothing. Nothing. She goes back to the house and she whispers in her sister Mary's ear. And she whispers, Mary, the master is calling for you. And Mary hears that. And she gets up from where she is. And all the multitude, all the people follow Mary. And she takes them to Jesus. And the Bible says, at the very place where Martha met him. So Martha's confession of faith has not moved Jesus, not one bit. Not one little inch. But when Mary gets there, she falls at his feet and she weeps. She worships him and she weeps. And at that, Jesus weeps. And he asks her, where have you laid him? And they get up and Jesus is moved by Mary's worship and weeping. Her relationship with the Lord that is utterly surrendered and separated and in love, right? Focused, making him the most important thing when she worships at his feet, right? And it moves Jesus to raise Lazarus from the dead. That is an example of this end time army, this end time two witnesses army, who they are. How are we going to move the Lord into the power, the glory of the city of God made manifest on this earth in these end times, in this week of Jacob's trouble, in this week of the Lord's passion? And it's going to be through a surrendered life, through a life that is in love with and sold out to Jesus only, to Jesus, and is able to fall down. You know, you're just not able to do that. Do you remember when you first got saved and you went into a church and everybody was raising their hands, worshiping like this? And I know for me, I can speak for myself, I don't think I'm an uncommon person. It was like, what are they doing? Oh, okay. And it was like, okay, I could do that kind of like right here, and then up here, and then up here, and then all the way. It became natural, but it took a minute. So I'm telling you, Mary's position to move the Lord, to raise the dead, is not simple to do. It is not simple to do. I go to a church out here, and they are a worshiping church. They worship the Lord. But the majority of the people during worship stay in the seats with everybody else. But I don't do that. I go to the altar and I kneel at the altar and I worship from there. And as uncomfortable and as that may make me feel like, what are you doing? Nobody else is here. I do that on purpose because I come out from among the crowds, like in my thing. I want to go press past a place of comfort and to get down at the altar and lose myself in utter worship to him. It's not just a comfortable thing that everybody can do. Most people are comfortable staying in the seats with everybody else. I'm not trying to make myself something. I'm just using myself as an example of purposing your heart and your mind to step past your place of comfort and to be like Mary and to throw yourself down at the feet of Jesus and have your heart so taken by him, so like consumed with what he is consumed with, that you weep before him. That is in his presence. That you can't just conjure that up. It has to come from a place of worship, of deep worship and love, and doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it day after day after day after day after day, right? But that's what moves him. It's right there in the Bible. It is what moves him to raise the dead. What moves him to raise the dead. And especially in this last hour. Anyway, so on the fifth day, Jesus goes to the cross. Interestingly enough, on the fifth seal, we have the first seal, the example of the Antichrist conquering to conquer. And then we have war, famine, and death. Probably will come simultaneously one upon the other like a snowball. And then we have the fifth seal. And all of a sudden, the fifth seal are the martyrs crying out from underneath the altar of God, "How long, Lord? How long until you avenge our blood?" And he said, just wait right here. Just a little bit longer until the rest of your brethren come. That is the fifth seal. That, my friends, is the fifth day. The fifth day is great martyrdom over the earth. And then we have the sixth seal, which is a shadowing exactly, almost verbatim, for Matthew 24, where Jesus, the disciples asked him, when is the signs of your coming? Read Matthew 24, and the tribulation of that day. That tribulation, which has never been seen since the beginning of time until the end. Remember that saying. Remember, from the beginning of time until the end. Right? Jesus tells us very clearly. We don't have to, try to make something be something that it's not. And it's not in all the rest of the scriptures pertaining to it. So, we can't make it something that it's not. Right? It's very, I'm going to tell you something. From my point of view, and I'm a very simple person. I really am. I'm a realist and a very simple person. From my point of view, and from a person who has seen it and been taught in heaven very specific things, it is honestly, the things I've been taught is like a child could understand it. How do we not know that? How do we just not know that? It was so simple. But unfortunately, we have a lot of extremely brilliant scholars and whatnot, and nothing against it, but sometimes man can try to make a mountain out of a molehill and try to make it like conform into something that is so simple. A child can understand it. It's just simply there. If the eyes of your understanding are open to see it with childlike faith, that's just the easiest way to know to have the Bible. It's simple things. I mean, it is simple things that are profound to me, I have found, because they're so simple. It's so just simply right there that it becomes profound. But anyway, so there was going to be great martyrdom. Then Jesus goes to the cross. He dies on the cross, and in the seventh day, he rises from the dead. Right? That rapture, that seventh of everything. Seventh. Anyway, in the tribulation period, even in Revelation, in the trumpets and in the vials. Anyway, I just wanted to share that little piece right there. I was so excited about it that I was like, Lord, and I know there's so much more in there, in that week of Jesus and the week of Jacob's trouble, that, I don't know, maybe you could look at it and maybe you could share with me other things that you see shadowing each other. Okay, that's it for today. I just wanted to share that with you really quickly. It's so exciting, isn't it? Do you know that in this last week, we're going to, I believe with all my heart, we're going to get so much understanding, revelation understanding into His Word, and we're going to see Him. Don't think for 1 second that it's going to go down like it is right now. That we're going to go down as these dry bones that have not really seen the glory of God in America. Maybe in other nations they see it more than we do, but we don't see it too much. They'll say, oh, the glory of God is here. And I'm like, no, it's not. I say that to myself. No, it's not. The presence of God is in the church. But the glory of God, don't diminish the glory of God. If the glory of God was in a church, no one in that church would be standing. No one in that church would be dry-eyed, right? The glory of God, our physical bodies can't take that. We can't. I've seen it in heaven. I've walked it out in heaven. In the garden, in the second heaven. And if you don't know what I'm saying, please watch my videos about the three heavens as they truly are. In the garden of God in heaven, the paradise of God, you could freely walk around. I could freely walk around being prepared. That when it was time to go to into the city of God, no, I had no strength. I had no strength to stand, not even to stand. The only thing I could do is get on my face and worship the Lord. That was it. I had to be strengthened in my kidneys and my back in order to be able to stand in the city of God, where the glory power of God is. That's the truth. That's the simple truth. And we don't really want to admit that because we're more inclined to go buy a pigeon for a couple of cents and offer it to God than to take our lives that we love, the things that we love to do, and separate them and worship God and be separated unto Him, like Elijah, like Moses, like Elisha, like, the saints of old, spirits of just men made perfect. Anyway, that's it for today. I've gone a long time and I always tell myself I'm not going to do that, but I end up doing it. Anyway, that's it for today. Okay, until next time, God bless you. Bye-bye.